stereotype is a set of preconceived traits of a person, place, thing, or idea based off of incomplete or often misguided or limited information, so that you are drawing conclusions without having a full picture about a thing.
Asians can't drive. White girls like Starbucks. Arabs are terrorists. Arabs are also conspiracy theorists.
That all Asian people are smart in math and sciences. They excel in the math and sciences. Another common one is that black boys tend to get in a lot of trouble, or they're always in trouble with cops. Muslims are equated to terrorists.
Asians can't drive.
Indians are only engineers, lawyers, doctors. Like, Asian people can't see. I've heard that one a lot. Black people love fried chicken.
There's always the stereotype of the Asians being really, really smart and being really good at math. I've heard the stereotype that black people are thugs, like I think most people have. The common stereotype I've also heard is that Russian people are drunks and love vodka.
I'm Lebanese American. I was born in the United States, but I've visited Lebanon since I was a child every 2 to 3 years in the summer. My parents are both Lebanese. My brother, I identify as more broader Arab. One guy puts a keffiyeh on his head and goes, Allahu Akbar, death to Israel! And I just slowly reverse walk out. And I'm like, oh my god, I'm the only Arab here.
I identify as African American. My parents are first generation immigrants from Nigeria, so I identify as more so Nigerian American than African American. People always asking me, how did you learn English? And it's that English is the national language in Nigeria, and a lot of people are like, wow, I didn't know that.
I identify as Indian American, but my parents came from India, so my origins are Indian. Every Indian is a doctor or engineer or really good at math.
Well, I'm Indian. It's pretty obvious. Identify with the Indian culture. My parents were both born in Africa, so I do identify some parts with that. People always think that I'm the smartest kid in the class because I'm Indian, which I guess is not bad per se, but then
I'm Russian. I was born in Russia, born in Siberia, which has some of its own connotations, I suppose. I've been asked if I drink a lot before. I've been kind of accused of being someone that drinks a lot, even though I don't. Second of the spectacles that take the place of life. The door we never look behind, preventing us from a real.
It was really harsh, at the least, to be in that kind of environment.
I think that it has a lot to do with people just not seeking out information and just being plain ignorant. If you were to watch the news or the media, you would know about this stuff. You would know that Nigeria isn't some type of barbaric country. It's a country with a great economy, lots of businesses from all around the world, and people investing inside the country. You would know that information. So I just think it's just plain ignorance, and people are not seeking out information. There isn't a truth, but there's a meaning. I think the meaning and the reason why people have these stereotypes is because of the media and movies. So one movie I can think of is Coming to America. This random country in Africa where animals were coming out, and people were click-clacking and speaking weird languages, and people were like, oh, that's how Africa is, and it comes from those types of movies that portray those images of Africans, of people who live in that continent. And being Nigerian, it's nothing like that. So.
Okay, well, the doctor-engineer thing, I think is kind of a lot of people are, happen to be. Some Indians are just naturally good at math. But I think a lot of them are kind of just offensive.
For how I personally gotten faced with these stereotypes, I feel like I'm not necessarily the worst person who could get it. I'm not people who are thinking that I'm just a thug or something. People will stereotype me as being super smart. The only truth I can say is that Indian parents, at least mine, they're not from America, and so they had to do a lot just to get here, so they do work you really hard. but the stereotypes about us only being good in like engineering, maths, or sciences are all false in my opinion. I'm a marketing major.
I feel like people make a lot of judgments, partially because they don't understand, I know, partially because they're insecure, partially because they just don't have much knowledge about certain groups or what have you. I definitely think that a lot of Russian people do drink, but if you were faced with the current situation in Russia, you would understand why people drink. Because living in Russia right now is pretty bad. Obviously there's, you know, worse situations to be in, but it's not a fun situation, and looking at my relatives in Russia and how they live makes me realize just how spoiled my life here has been.
Well, obviously I'm not a terrorist.
When I find someone who is clearly ignorant about something, or they're just not knowledgeable, they don't have the knowledge, I like to think that, I tend to like inform them and say, hey, you know, like, I'm from this place, it's nothing like that. Like, I try to clarify and correct them on their misjudgment about where I'm from or my background.
Okay, well, math was my favorite subject in high school, one of my favorite subjects. But I was also really artsy, which a lot of people aren't. And the reason I became an architecture major was because I wanted to break the stereotype of becoming a doctor or an engineer like my parents wanted.
You know, by being a marketing major, I'm breaking the stereotypes that we're only engineers. And by getting a B on the exam, I'm breaking the stereotype of being like the smartest kid in the class.
Like, I don't drink. I really don't.
This box that we were eating, sleep inside.
I think it'd be nice if you can walk by somebody and not have to comment on anything that they're doing or what they're drinking or how they're doing something. Even like how they're dressed, like everybody can just be who they are, and that's the end of it. Like, you shouldn't have to think twice or have to have a double take just because someone looks different or stands out.
So I'd like to see a world where people from nations take the time to learn from one another and not just prejudge them. So people want to go out and learn about Islam and Muslims and not just prejudge them right away and say, oh, they want to kill people. Like, it's nothing like that. I want to see people trying to understand people from, I don't know, different communities, the LGBT community or the African American community or like Asians, like just learning from everyone from everywhere, so that we can be in a more peaceful world.
I think people just need to be more like open-minded and not realize that like some stereotypes can hurt people. So people just need to be more educated.
I mean, it'd be nice, I guess, to like for people to go beyond like thinking about stereotypes. Obviously, that's such like a fundamental institutionalized like way of thinking. But I like to think that as long as America is a time of such progression, that in the future, maybe 20 years down the line, those thoughts will be like the first thing that comes to mind, instead of like secondary and more of a joke, as in like, I can't believe they used to think like that.
I'd like people to just treat each other equally, not really judge anyone based off certain characteristics. Like, yes, respect everyone's background, respect that coming from those backgrounds, there's certain notions they might have, there might be certain attitudes that they have, but nevertheless respect them and treat them all equally, because you don't really know someone's full story.
Stereotypes are good if you're in a hunter-gatherer society and your uncle was killed by a poisonous snake, so now you have the stereotype that all snakes are dangerous, so you'll stay away from all snakes. But they are bad if you're a citizen in a plural society, because often stereotypes about other people or other groups leads to misinformation, xenophobia, miscommunication, and abuse or conflict, which degrades the society as a whole, which you're part of. So it doesn't play in your favor, even if you think it's a survival tactic.
We built a